Chapter 13, Cobblestone. This was the second time Pearl had been inside the identification room. During the first visit, Mr. Tabby had examined the dragon hatchling. Then he'd set the wounded creature onto a conveyor belt, which had carried the hatchling away to surgery. The wide belt ran from an examination table and through a large hole in the wall. Had Mr. Tabby put the leprechaun on the conveyor belt? It made sense. Pearl peered into the hole. It was dark in there. She reached her hand inside and felt the sides of a tunnel, but nothing more. So she climbed onto the belt and sat with her legs crisscrossed. After tucking the hem of her lab coat under her bottom so it wouldn't get caught on anything, she pushed the conveyor belt's button. A humming sound arose, like a trapped housefly, and the belt began to move. For a brief moment, Pearl second-guessed herself and almost jumped off. But then what would she do? The leprechaun seemed the best way to fix things without Mr. Tabby or Dr. Wu finding out. As Pearl entered the tunnel, she ducked her head and wrapped her arms around her knees. She remembered the Tunnel of Love ride she'd taken at the Milky Dale County Fair last summer. But instead of sitting on a conveyor belt, she'd sat in a little heart-shaped boat. It was dark inside the tunnel, and cold. The belt moved slowly, deeper into the blackness, then took a turn to the right, then a turn to the left. A few moments later, rays of light greeted her as she emerged into another room. This room had nothing in it except for a chalkboard, upon which someone had written in white chalk, "Patient, Sasquatch. Location, Floor 3, Forest Suite. Condition, foot fungus." Then under it, "Patient, Lake Monster. Location, Button Lake. Condition, amnesia." Amnesia, Pearl thought? She'd heard the term before. A person who has amnesia is unable to remember things, like who he is or where he'd come from. But she'd never heard of an animal having amnesia. Then she found what she was looking for. Patient, leprechaun. Location, Floor 1, steam room. Condition, head cold. Pearl figured that because the conveyor belt hadn't traveled uphill, she was still on the first floor. After scooting off the belt, she opened the door and peered into a hallway. Directly across was a door labeled Ointment Room. The next door was labeled Parasite Removal Room. The steam room was the third door down. As she tiptoed up to it, she tried to remember exactly what Mr. Tabby had said. If you take a leprechaun's gold, he will grant you a wish. How difficult could it be? Leprechauns were small, so they couldn't put up a very big fight. Could they? Slowly, she cracked open the steam room door and peeked in. A very small figure sat on top of a table. He was about the size of the garden gnome statues that Mrs. Fruit, the oldest person in Buttonville, kept all over her front yard. His leather apron overflowed with tools of all shapes and sizes. His white shirt sleeves were rolled up, and his black hair was tied back in a knot. A humidifier hummed in the corner, spraying menthol-scented steam into the air. Wow, Pearl thought, it's a real, living, breathing leprechaun. A very small person. Then she remembered that he wasn't a person after all. He was a fairy. He blew his nose into a tissue, then wadded the tissue and dropped it onto the floor, where it joined dozens of others. Pearl caught a quick glimpse of his profile as he grabbed another tissue. His nose was red and glistening. "Cobblestone be all snuffy," he grumbled, sniffly and snuffly. Pearl took a quick breath. There it was, a rusty coffee can right next to the leprechaun. Something shimmered from within. Gold. Pearl dashed into the room. "Ugh!" she groaned as she snatched the can, which was surprisingly heavy. The coins clinked and glimmering dust rose into the air. The leprechaun spun around, his eyes wide with surprise. "Cobblestone's gold," he said, pointing to the can. His face turned as red as his swollen nose. "Why do you steal from Cobblestone?" I'm not stealing, Pearl said. I'm borrowing. Then return it to Cobblestone. He got to his feet. Gold dust speckled his black beard and black boots. Pearl was confused. Is your name Cobblestone? Or are you talking about someone else? Cobblestone stands before you. He held out his arms. Now give Cobblestone his treasure. Pearl stepped away, hugging the can to her chest. It was as heavy as an armful of bricks. She wasn't sure how long she could hold it. I'll give it back if you grant me a wish. The leprechaun sneezed. A little cloud of golden dust shot out of his nose. What be the name of the thief who steals from Cobblestone? Pearl didn't like being called a thief, but she was holding something that didn't belong to her. My name is Pearl. Pearl? He furrowed his brow. Pearl be a fairy name. You be a strange-looking fairy. Where be your wings? I'm not a fairy, Pearl said. I'm just a regular girl. Human? The word hissed out. Cobblestone doesn't like humans. You like Dr. Wu, don't you? She's a human. Dr. Wu never tries to steal from Cobblestone. I only did it because you're supposed to grant me a wish if I get your gold. One wish would take care of everything. Pearl chewed on her lower lip as she noticed the tools hanging from the leprechaun's apron. Some looked super sharp. What if he got mad and tried to poke her? He was a level 3 on the danger scale, after all, and not fond of human beings. My friend is in trouble, and I need a wish so I can set him free. Cobblestone has no wishes. His magic beclogged with sniffles and snot. He blew his nose into a tissue. Pearl remembered Mr. Tabby's warning. Leprechauns are notorious tricksters, and getting a wish granted is nearly impossible. It almost always ends badly for the humans. Was the leprechaun lying about his magic? Was he trying to trick her? Then I guess you don't want your gold. I'll just be leaving. There's a nice bank in town where I can deposit it. She lifted her foot, preparing to take a step. Wait, he rubbed his red nose. Cobblestone has no magic, but Cobblestone will trade with you instead. He pointed to her feet. Your human shoes be hideous. Cobblestone will make you a pair of leprechaun shoes if you return his gold. A pair of leprechaun shoes? The little guy smiled sweetly. Would Pearl the regular girl like a pair of dancing shoes made from lightning bug wings, or a pair of running shoes made from the wind? How about a pair of slippers made from spun clouds? Spun clouds? Nothing in the dollar store is made from spun clouds. Cobblestone be the best cobbler in all of the imaginary world. He can make shoes from anything. He puffed out his chest. You will be the envy of your friends. Her friends? Pearl looked away for a moment. She'd gotten her only friend trapped on an island with a lake monster, and now she was thinking about shoes. I don't need shoes. She rattled the can. I need a wish. Are you going to grant me a wish, or am I going to use this gold to buy myself a chewing gum factory? He folded his arms. What be your wish? Pearl smiled with satisfaction. Now they were getting somewhere. My friend Ben is stuck on an island because a lake monster took him and won't let him go. I want you to grant me a wish to get Ben off the island without Dr. Wu or Mr. Tabby or anyone else finding out. A lake monster, you say? He sneezed, and this time the gold dust shot out of his ears. Lake monsters have tiny fish brains. They'd be easy to trick. Take Cobblestone to the lake monster.